You're right. For a seamless voiceover recording, the script should be presented as pure dialogue for the narrator, without any metadata or labels that could interrupt the flow. Here is the entire script for I inherited a seaside mansion, but found a hidden chamber that exposed my family's 30-year lie, delivered as a single continuous narrative block. When you think of an inheritance, you imagine peace, closure, maybe a little stability. I thought mine would be a sanctuary. My grandmother, Clara, left me her entire estate, a place everyone in our family called the Cliffside. It was a house built on sand, metaphorically and literally. It was breathtaking, but the air around it had been thick with resentment for 30 years. Grandma Clara passed away 6 months ago. Peaceful, they said, old age and a frail heart. But the reading of the will was anything but peaceful. See, my Aunt Vivian, Clara's only daughter, had always expected the cliffside. She'd spent her entire adult life hovering, waiting for it. But Grandma, in her final act, left everything to me, her granddaughter. Me! And Vivian, she was cut out entirely. The air crackled with her fury. "This is a travesty," she shrieked. "I cared for her. I maintained that death trap house. Sarah hasn't visited in a decade." But Grandma knew better. She knew Vivian cared only for the asset, not the family history. And Vivian's rage wasn't just about money. It was a profound, terrifying entitlement. The lawyer assured me the will was ironclad. The house was mine. But when I stepped onto that porch for the first time as the owner, I knew something wasn't right. The windows were too clean. The power bill was astronomical. And the moment I opened the door, a wave of sickeningly sweet, expensive air freshener hit me. Someone had been living here. Someone was still trying to profit off my grandmother's death. And I looked right at that beautiful, lying mansion and vowed I was going to find out what my grandmother was hiding and why Vivian hated me enough to steal from the dead. My first priority was inventory. The cliffside was huge and full of antiques, but everywhere I looked, something was wrong. Missing pieces of art, new locks on interior doors, and then the ultimate slap in the face, a key box on the wall near the kitchen, the kind you use for rental properties. My Aunt Vivian, the scorned daughter, hadn't just been waiting for the house, she'd been illegally leasing it for premium holiday rates. She'd been doing this for the 6 months since Grandma died, possibly longer. She even put up fake blackout curtains to hide the activity from the neighbors. She was pocketing thousands, hiding the profits, and letting the maintenance slide, assuming she'd eventually inherit it all. I called Vivian. The conversation was icy. "Vivian, I just checked into my house, and I found your little side business. You have 24 hours to forward every cent of those illegal rental profits to my lawyer. If you don't, I will file fraud and trespassing charges. You are done." She shrieked, "You naive little brat! That house is falling apart. I was saving it for the family. You have no idea what it takes to keep that place running." Her desperation felt too profound for just money. There was more to the house, and more to her hatred. I hired Gary, the structural engineer, to assess the house's stability. He confirmed my fears. The cliffside was, indeed, built precariously, but he wasn't worried about the foundation. He was worried about the west wing load-bearing wall. Gary told me, "The main support beam here, it's compromised. Looks like someone intentionally cut through it with a saw, then patched it over with drywall. It's a miracle the second floor hasn't collapsed. This wasn't erosion. This was sabotage." The west wing was where Grandma Clara's bedroom was. If this damage was recent, Vivian could have caused a fatal structural failure that would look exactly like an accident. Was Vivian trying to cash in early? Vivian's greed led me to the house. The house's structure led me to the wall. I dismissed Gary and spent the next 3 days chipping away at the ornate paneling in the library. Behind the decorative wood was a layer of cheap, new drywall. And behind that, a small, perfectly sealed door, hidden beneath fresh plaster. I forced the small door open. It led into a cramped, dark, low-ceilinged chamber. The air was stale, ancient. There was a small, dusty desk and a single, locked metal strongbox, the kind you place to hide the worst truth of your life. I pried it open. Inside were 3 things: a thick, leather-bound diary, a stack of very old, yellowed newspaper clippings, and a sealed, official-looking envelope. The newspaper clippings were dated 30 years ago. Teenage boy dies in hit and run on Coast Highway. The victim? Robert Robbie Jenkins, age 16. The diary, that was my grandmother's voice. I started reading Clara's entries from 30 years ago. The writing was manic, terrified. It spoke of a dark night, a rainy road, and a crushing, life-altering mistake. The truth began to spill out. The entry read, October 14th, 1995. I failed. Vivian's son, Marcus, my grandson, he took the car. He was only 16. He was drunk. He hit a boy named Robbie Jenkins and left him to die in the ditch. The car is ruined. I can't let my grandson go to prison for life. I have to protect him. I'm going to pay for this crime myself. My grandmother had written, October 16th, 1995. The police are looking for a dark sedan. We drove the car into the abandoned boathouse and burned it. I had to tell the police I was home all night. I will pay off the Jenkins family, make them whole, but the lie will live here, in this house. I built this secret chamber to hide the car parts, the evidence, and the confession. My daughter, Vivian, will never forgive me for making her complicit in this lie. Marcus, my cousin. He was responsible for a hit-and-run death, and my grandmother had committed the ultimate sin. She had covered it up to protect him. The Seaside mansion was a tomb built over a 30-year-old lie. Clara hadn't just covered it up, she'd engineered a complex payoff. But the consequence was not peace, it was bitter resentment. Vivian couldn't live with the guilt, nor could she live with the shame. She resented her mother for making her a complicit, and she resented me, the innocent grandchild, for receiving the house without having to carry the burden. The truth of the sabotage hit me like a physical punch. Vivian's warnings about the house falling apart weren't a prediction, they were a justification. Vivian didn't just want the house. She wanted to punish Clara for the guilt they shared. She was systematically damaging the load-bearing wall, hoping the structure would collapse, killing Clara, and making it look like the house had finally given way. The crime wasn't just old, it was pure, cold family hatred, weaponized by structural failure.
Vivian is going down for grand theft, fraud, and attempted murder, I told my lawyer. But if I just call the police, she'll deny it. I need to force her hand, make her confess in public, and ensure the 30-year-old hit and run is also exposed. We needed the house as the stage. We needed a public event that forced Vivian to talk. We decided to host a settlement and memorial reception at the cliffside 1 week later. We invited every remaining family member, the estate lawyer, and crucially, a representative from the local district attorney's office disguised as a notary for the final settlement paperwork. Vivian, fueled by arrogance and greed, took the bait immediately. Vivian was convinced this was my desperate attempt to sell the house quickly and share the profit with her. She walked in like the victor, ready to demand her cut. She didn't realize she was walking into a police interrogation room disguised as a memorial. She leaned in, sickeningly sweet. "Darling Sarah, This is beautiful. A fitting farewell to Mother. I'm willing to take it off your hands for a small management fee, say 50% of its market value." I smiled, cold and hard. "Thank you, Vivian. We will discuss the management fee shortly. First, I wanted to show everyone a little piece of the house's history, something my grandmother wanted everyone to see." I led the small group to the library in the West Wing. I gestured to the exposed hole where the secret door used to be. When I moved in, I noticed structural damage here, damage that was hidden by cheap paneling. That damage almost caused this wing to collapse. But the person who created that damage, my Aunt Vivian, didn't realize she had done two things. She exposed her own crime, and she led me to this chamber and to my grandmother's most terrible secret. Vivian tried to run, but the detective subtly blocked the doorway. She screamed, "This is ridiculous! I don't know what this is! You're insane, Sarah!" I replied, "It's not a storage room, Vivian. It's a confession box." And inside, I found the story of Robbie Jenkins. I pulled out the diary, opening it to the 1995 entry. I read, "Vivian's son Marcus took the car. He was drunk. He hit a boy named Robbie Jenkins and left him to die in the ditch. 30 years ago, Vivian, you stood by and watched your mother sacrifice her soul to protect your son from prison. You resented her so much for the guilt she placed on you that you tried to kill her by sawing the support beam in her bedroom wall." I held up the structural engineer's report. "You didn't want the house for money. You wanted it because it was a monument to your shame. You thought you could destroy the evidence by burying my grandmother in the rubble, and you covered it all up by illegally leasing it out, waiting for your perfect exit. But my grandmother left me this house because she knew I would look past the walls and see the truth." Vivian collapsed, hysterical. "She deserved it! She made me live with that lie. She protected him, but she destroyed me. She destroyed my peace. Yes, I wanted her gone. I hated this house. I hated her sacrifice. I hated you for getting away with everything." The detective stepped forward, showing his badge. "Vivian Vance, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and grand theft. Your son Marcus will also be facing charges for the 1995 hit and run." As she was dragged out, screaming and sobbing, I looked at the little room behind the wall, and I felt a strange sense of clarity. Justice was served that day, but it was bittersweet. Vivian was gone, but the truth about my cousin Marcus and the death of Robbie Jenkins would be devastating for the entire family. Yet, it had to happen. My grandmother's lie created a monster, and only the truth could stop the cycle of destruction. I tracked down the Jenkins family. They were astonished, but relieved after 30 years of unanswered questions. They finally had closure. I used some of the recovered rental money to establish a scholarship in Robbie's name. This wasn't revenge, but justice for a ghost my family created. The cliffside is being repaired, structurally and spiritually. I sealed the strongbox and the diary inside the chamber again, but I didn't hide it. I simply covered the opening with new plaster, ready to be discovered again, a reminder that the truth always finds a way out. I decided to live here. My grandmother, Clara, was a good woman who made a terrible, soul-destroying choice. I learned that the greatest inheritance is not the land or the wealth, but the integrity you choose to live by. I lost a comfortable life when I opened that door, but I gained something far more valuable: the truth, and a house that is finally built on solid ground. What would you have done if you found a secret that could destroy your entire family, but was the only way to deliver justice? Tell me in the comments below. If you believe that the truth, no matter how painful, is always worth fighting for, hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you for listening to my story. I'll see you next time.